So, the new season got announced. We already talked about all the gameplay stuff that is coming to League. Then we also talked about the skins, which some of them have some issues. But now it's time to actually just enjoy what we're getting as we dive into the new map. Now yes, I'm sure the new game mode will come eventually, and so we will do the exact same thing there. But for now, it is time to have a look at just how much did the Ionian season change Summoner's Rift. Spoiler alert, mechanically or gameplay-wise, not at all. We are talking about an exact replica of the Summoner's Rift we used to have before the Noxian season. However, just like it happened during the Noxian season, we can see some Easter eggs here, where some of them are probably teasing future skins. So without further ado, let's dive into these teasers. So, as we previously joked, instead of getting a brown and red map, we are now gonna be getting blue and pink. Or mostly, we are talking about gloomy green, I guess. On one side, it could be a bit of an upgrade over the brown we previously got. At least, that's the feedback Riot got. In my eyes, I never really had an issue with the new map, but some people didn't like it, which is why Riot later tuned it down. Well, now it seems like they went the exact opposite direction. They just shifted the hue and now everything is quite a bit more blue. So, I'll be honest, I am once again expecting them to dial it down. And that's mainly because if you play any kind of blue champions, you just blend in. So anyway, let's appreciate the art. Starting with the bottom side, which is mostly blue and purple. In fact, you will see that one side of the map will have elements of purple and the other one will have elements of red. This is all tied to the theme of Morgana against Ashe, which were supposed to be the two exalted skins battling it out. What's curious to see is that on Morgana's side, which again, that's the bottom side, we can already find some hints of Yunara, the new champion. In the cinematic, we could see her putting up the lanterns, which seem to be the blooms, and you can see the exact same blooms hanging around the bottom side. When it comes to the shopkeeper of the bottom side, it's pretty much the same as the one before, except now it has a very Ionian theme. It also has the same items around, for example the Infinity Edge or Rylai Scepter, but on the table you can see some new things. For example, there are new masks which seem to be entirely new. I could be wrong, but unless it is one of the newer skins or it is a weird twist on Kindred, I guess, these are either teasing future skins or they are just made up because the shopkeeper is selling made-up masks. What's more important, however, is that if we go back to the Noxian season, you may remember that the shopkeeper there had the cards on the table. Of course, those cards ended up foreshadowing the demon's hand, so it was teasing the minigame. Well, now you can see that the shopkeeper has pieces of shogi, is what I believe is the Japanese version of chess. So maybe that's what the new minigame might be. Regardless, just remember these because they might be teasing the new metagame. Anyway, before we leave the fountain, there is one more thing to point out. On the spawn itself, you can see that underneath the water there is a mask. A big shout out to Twisted, who remembered that that is a mask that was originally teased for Yone. I think this one has a specific emotion which was also in the concept art. But yes, this is indeed one of the masks originally connected to Yone. In other words, it is the Azakana, the Ionian demons. Which again makes sense because the entire bottom side is linked to spirits. Once again, that is why you have Morgana here, that is also why you have Yunara references here. And again, everything is a bit more purple because of the Azakana. And yes, on the tree you can also see that there is a frog, and this one is animated. Unlike the other frogs on this map for some reason. Anyway, speaking of the Azakana, you can see that the Nexus itself is some kind of an Ionian orb, but you can see it has dark magic spewing from the top. On one side, this could be the dark spiritual magic of the Azakana, or, remember, we are here to look for a Darkin. During the Noxian season, the entire map was slowly changing as LeBlanc was corrupting it. So what are the chances that at some point during the season, the Nexus is gonna blow up and is gonna get corrupted by a Darkin. Next, of course, around the Nexus, we can see all the Morgana statues. Remember, Morgana is gonna be the next exalted skin. That is also why she was so heavily featured in the cinematic. Next, the inhibitors are the classic gateways you can see around Ionia. They are mostly known for being featured around the Placidium of Navori. And for Spirit Blossoms specifically, they were used as gateways which lead souls to the Spirit Realm. If I remember it correctly, that's what was teased in the storylines for Ahri and Thresh during Spirit Blossom. And speaking of the original Spirit Blossom spirits, you can see that on each side of the map you have special statues. So, still staying around the bottom side, you can see that one of these is Teemo, the trickster who used to prank us all the time during the Spirit Blossom dating minigame. And yes, I would say Teemo was one of my favorite storylines. In case you're wondering what this is a reference to specifically, well, thankfully I still have all the art that was used in the original Spirit Blossom minigame, and I can show you that this exact statue was shown in the gardens of Teemo. Speaking of which, on the other side of the bottom side, we have one of the shrines used for these spirits. I think the one shrine shown in the minigame was actually the one for Ahri, but it could be for anyone. Now continuing on as we get out of the bottom side, you can see that all the fires around the entire Summoner's Rift were replaced with the blooms. And unfortunately, they do have the exact same color on both sides. Another interesting feature of the bottom side is that just totally randomly, there is this one bird hanging in the air. I have no idea what this is about, but the rest of the architecture around the entire Summoner's Rift is pretty much identical with some added details. For example, every now and then you can see some new masks, such as this one, which currently doesn't belong to a single Spirit Blossom skin we know of. Which means it is pretty much guaranteed that this is teasing a Spirit Blossom skin for the second half of the season. Place your bets on who this is, because to me, it can be anyone. But besides this one horned mask, there are shrines that actually show us a lot of other masks. For example, there is this shrine which has a monkey statue. Now, I'm not sure if this is too much of a stretch, but I'm pretty sure the entire League of Legends has but one monkey. No, I'm not talking about Garen. Yeah, there is a good chance it might be teasing a skin for Wukong, because outside of that, I'm not really sure what this would be. But you will see that there are other animalistic statues around Summoner's Rift. Before we get to that though, let's talk about the masks. At the bottom, you can see that there is a fox mask. Or if it is not a fox, it is some kind of a feline creature. Well, if you remember the cinematic, you may remember that this is the mask of Irelia. Again, I'm not sure if it is a fox or what it actually is, but the mask with the weird horns and the ears is indeed Irelia. The one above that one is really interesting, because that is not a mask that belongs to Spirit Blossom. That is a Blood Moon mask. Specifically, it belongs to Blood Moon Akali. So I'm gonna guess that's not really a canonical teaser or anything like that, it's just an Easter egg. Because Blood Moon should not be connected to Spirit Blossom. I'm gonna guess Riot just had the asset for the mask and they were like, let's just use it. Speaking of which, yes, there's also Jhin. Which, unless it is teasing that Jhin is getting a Spirit Blossom skin, then I guess it could be a teaser for the fact that Jhin is in Ionia. And that's kinda it. Hey, if Jhin gets to be involved in the entire Darkin storyline in Ionia, then it would make sense why Shen was also in the cinematic. Because Shen is still hunting him down. Now continuing on, there is one more shrine next to this one that is similar. It also has a lot of masks. Here, once again, you can see Akali's Blood Moon mask. There is Irelia's mask, and once again, the new horned whoever that is. Like, we could guess it's some kind of a man or a woman with, like, horns, but again, this could be anything. This could be Aatrox. I would not be surprised if Riot turned Aatrox into a sexy man. That's how modern skins work, after all. And yes, once again, you can see Jhin here. But what's really interesting about this shrine is that if you happen to glitch underneath the ground, you can see there is just a random bloom underneath it. For no real reason. And ignore what you can see in the background. We'll get to that. Now, continuing through the jungle, you can see that most of the camps are identical. All Riot did is that they changed the green grass into a blue grass. But you can see that the wolves have a new wolfy statue behind them. Now, this could be a reference to Spirit Blossom set, but what's cool is that outside of this wolfy statue, there is also a statue of Capybara. Now, this could be a reference to Riot Just a Capybara, who became famous for the last Death Talk. Or these statues, together with the monkey statue, could be pawns or something which would be used in the minigame. Remember, that's what this could be teasing too. So whatever all of these are, I'm gonna assume later we are actually gonna learn about them. Now, outside of these weird statues, there is also one really weird thing, which is this specific mask. This one is likely teasing a new skin, because again, it does not belong to anyone. And looking at the weird shape, Lord have mercy on whoever that champion is gonna get that skin. Because who can it be? Bard? Not really, Bard already has one and the mask is different. So what is this? Fizz? Oh god, it's gotta be Spirit Blossom Fizz. No, but really, I have no idea. Outside of this, the rest of the jungle is relatively the same, except for the fact that chickens once again have an extra mask in there. The exact same mask can be also seen once again around top lane, where we get into the beautiful view behind the entire lane. So by now people know that if there is one lane that is miserable, it's top lane, which is definitely why Riot just gave them this beautiful view. At least they are getting something. But yes, this is actually a reference to the cinematic. The kites we've seen there are now on Summoner's Rift. But what's really interesting is that besides these kites and besides the beautiful Ionia in the background, Faker's Ahri is still here. Now, I don't know what's the deal, as in, literally, I don't know what kind of a deal they made. I'm not sure if Faker has to be on the Summoner's Rift for the next 2 years or so. Maybe until the next Hall of Legends legend pops up. But yes, for some reason, the Faker Ahri is still here. Now, moving from top lane to the bottom lane, you can see that the Baron Pit is the same. The Dragon Pit is also exactly the same. The critters are still working, except for Mr. Frog, who refuses to move. The only one that's animated is still the one in the base. Once again, we can see more of these masks spread around, except there is one new one. And if you thought the last one was weird, I have no idea what the heck that is. It's something with a really weird long nose. Like, is it possible we're getting Spirit Blossom Trundle or something? Hey, if we're getting Spirit Blossom Trundle, I'm gonna be amazed. But outside of that, again, I have no idea who this could be. Now, thankfully, near bottom lane, that one Easter egg is still here, and so indeed, behind the statue of the Wolfie, the Teenage Mutants Ninja Turtles Easter egg is still there. You can see that's the dagger and the pizza. Outside of that, the lane looks pretty good, with all the pink petals. It's fine. But once again, bottom lane has a really interesting secret, because if you happen to glitch underneath the ground, you will actually find pieces of the walls which are supposed to make a base. Like, yes, those are the front walls, including some of the statues that used to be on the original Summoner's Rift. I have no idea how these pieces got underneath the ground, and they also got offset from their original position by quite a bit. But hey, they are still chilling there, underneath the ground. And that's where we start transitioning into the top side. So, of course, the top side is themed after Ashe, who is battling Morgana, which is why all the turrets are Ashe. But unfortunately, outside of that, there are not too many Easter eggs around the jungle. They probably spent all the budget of the top side on the spawn. We'll talk about that. But yes, most of the camps are exactly the same. Occasionally you can see a statue every now and then. I think there is the total of one mask spread across the entirety of the top side. And so when it comes to the Easter egg fight, yeah, bottom side is definitely winning. But is it really winning? Because indeed, the top side still has Faker's Ahri. But then we get to the base. And that's where you can see how beautiful this actually is. The entire base is gorgeous. And you can see that if you look into the background, the trees are red. In the middle of the map, everything was more blue, and in the bottom, it was purple. This is how the two sides actually contrast. It's not really a blue side and a red side, well now it is a red side and a purple side. Anyway, creeping towards the top, you can see that behind the statues, the inhibitors are once again the gateways of the Placidium, but here you can see that the color scheme is more Kinku oriented. In other words, ninjas, such as Zed, Shen, Kennen, stuff like that. In fact, there is a lot of Kinku Easter eggs around here. For example, remember how the bottom side had the special statues of Teemo and the shrine? Well now, top side has a really cool statue of Shen, meaning that either Shen is gonna be just really important for the storyline, or Shen is also getting a Spirit Blossom skin. But on the other side we have Legends of Runeterra mentioned! Yes, that is the person for the ritual where they are giving the masks to the new Kinku members. I have to be honest, that statue looks so good. And props to the writer who figured this out, because that is such a clever Easter egg. But that leaves us with the main building, outside of the spawn, which is the Nexus. Where once again you can see all the water around it, because wells are kinda used in Ionia to suppress evil, be it Syndra or, you know, Darkin. Which is why, once again, possibly around the orb you can see dark magic. It could be Morgana's spiritual stuff, or it could actually be a Darkin. Which takes us to the spawn itself. And here, I have to say, this might be the most gorgeous area of the entire map. It's not even blue. You can see the sun is shining, the color is totally different, it's just nice. And again, the entire building is one massive reference to the gateways around the Placidium. Now the shopkeeper is pretty much selling stuff to tourists, I guess, including sushi and other kinds of seafood I usually don't eat. And of course there are some item references, for example Shojin, Heart of Gold, there is also Darkblade, and there are a bunch of stone swords in the barrel, which could actually also be a reference to Ionia if you really think about it. But of course there is one more thing that we can mention, which is the fox statue. Again, at the beginning I thought that this could be Ari, because Ari used to be the OG spirit that was guiding souls into the spirit realm. But now it seems like this is Irelia, because similar to the mask, it has the weird thing on the forehead. But also, because this is Ari's side, because it was mentioned that Irelia is pretty much Ari's enforcer in the Spirit Blossom universe, then it would make sense why this statue representing Irelia would be on Ash's side. And so, it's all kind of beautiful in its own way, but it's beautiful because once again it is hiding a dark secret. Because if you happen to glitch underneath the ground, you can actually see shredded pieces of the original base? Is this what Riot is doing with the assets when they are done with them? They shove them into a shredder? Although you can also see pieces of the original base underneath the ground. Also, you can see that when they wanted to remove the old statues and replace them with the new ones, instead of just deleting them, they shoved them underneath the ground. Yeah, that's gonna work. Which leaves us with only one more thing to mention, which are the minions. This time around, they are quite simple because they are similar to the ones we got in Noxus, at least in the design. But on Ash's side, you can see that they have the wolfy, foxy thing on the shield, and the casters have a little scroll with a Spirit Blossom icon. But on the spiritual side, with Yunara and Morgana, you can see the minions actually have masks of the Yazakana. And so in general, once again, that side is more spiritual. And that's really all the Easter eggs that I was able to find on the new Summoner's Rift. Once again, it is crazy to see the attention to detail here, especially since the team is already dealing with other things such as making new arenas and new game modes. So where did all of this come from? I have no idea. But I know one thing. There is no way everything is gonna stay the way it is. If you play a blue champion, that's just pay to win. So now the question is, how is Riot gonna dial down the colors?